For 20,000 years, the galaxy believed that humanity was gone. Old records spoke about a small blue planet called Earth. Long ago, humans had explored nearby stars. They built small colonies and sent ships into space. They were curious, brave, and sometimes reckless. But then one day they simply vanished. Their signals stopped. Their colonies went silent. Their ships never returned. At first, other species tried to search for them. But space is big and time moves on. After a few centuries, most civilizations stopped looking. Slowly, humans became a legend. Some believed they had destroyed themselves with war. Others thought a cosmic disaster had wiped them out. A few even believed humans had never truly existed at all. For many species in the galaxy, humans were just an old story. Something from the past. Something forgotten. And for 20,000 years, the galaxy moved forward without them. New empires rose. New alliances formed. Advanced technology spread across thousands of star systems. Humanity became nothing more than a footnote in ancient archives. Until the day something strange appeared in deep space. Far away from the busy trade routes, near the quiet edges of the Orion sector, a small patrol fleet was performing a routine mission. The patrol belonged to the Valari Union, a peaceful civilization known for exploration and research. Their ships often traveled through empty regions of space, looking for unusual signals or lost technology. Captain Ralden stood on the command deck of the patrol ship Silver Horizon. The mission had been calm so far. The screens around him showed endless darkness filled with distant stars. Nothing unusual had appeared for weeks. Some of the crew were already bored. Lieutenant Sarah, the ship's sensor officer, leaned closer to her console as a faint signal appeared on the display. First she thought it was just background noise. But then the signal appeared again. But real. She frowned. "Captain," she said quietly, "I am detecting something." Ralden turned toward her. "Another asteroid?" he asked with a tired smile. Sarah shook her head. "No. This signal is different." The bridge slowly became silent. The captain stepped closer to her console. "What kind of signal?" Sarah adjusted the scanners and zoomed in on the source. "A metallic object," she said. "Very old. Drifting slowly." Ralden raised an eyebrow. "Old wreckage." "Maybe," Sarah replied. "But it still has a power source." That immediately caught the captain's attention. A ship that old should not have power. Not after thousands of years. Ralden straightened. "Bring it on the main screen." The central display changed. At first, the object looked like nothing more than a dark shape floating among the stars. But as the scanners improved the image, the shape became clearer. It was a ship. Small compared to modern vessels. Its design looked primitive. The surface of the hull was covered in scratches and long scars from space debris. The metal looked faded and worn by time. But it was still intact. And most importantly, it was still active. "Life signs?" Ralden asked. Sarah checked the sensors again. "None." The captain folded his arms. "How old do you think it is?" The ship's science officer, Dr. Kellen, spoke from the back of the bridge. "Preliminary scans suggest extreme age." "How extreme?" Ralden asked. The scientist hesitated for a moment. Then he answered slowly. "At least 20,000 years." The entire bridge went quiet. One of the crew members laughed nervously. "That must be a mistake." But Kellen shook his head. "The metal shows long-term radiation exposure consistent with that age." Sarah zoomed closer to the ship's hull. Suddenly, something appeared on the screen. Symbol. Very faded. Almost erased by time. But still visible. "Captain," she whispered. Ralden leaned closer. "What is it?" Sarah activated the translation system. The computer worked for several seconds. Old languages were difficult to translate, especially ones that had not been used for thousands of years. Then the computer finally spoke. "Translation complete." The symbol slowly appeared as words on the screen. One word. Terra. For a moment nobody spoke. Captain Ralden felt a strange chill. He looked at Dr. Kellen. "Tell me I'm wrong." The scientist stared at the screen. His eyes widened. "That word appears in ancient records." Ralden already knew the answer, but he asked anyway. "What does it mean?" Kellen swallowed. It was the name humans used for their homeworld. The bridge suddenly felt colder. Human ship. After 20,000 years. Should have been impossible. Humans were gone. Everyone knew that. But the ship floating outside their window told a different story. Ralden took a slow breath. "Move closer," he ordered. The silver horizon slowly approached the ancient vessel. The closer they got, the more details appeared. Old antenna arrays. Primitive thrusters. A small exploration design. Nothing about the ship looked dangerous. It looked like something built by a young civilization just beginning to explore space. Yet it had survived longer than entire empires. "Captain," Sarah said suddenly, "I am detecting something else." "What now?" "The ship's internal systems are waking up." Ralden looked back at the screen. Lights slowly flickered across the ancient hull. A faint glow appeared along its surface. The power core was activating. But how? After 20,000 years. Dr. Kellen stepped forward quickly. "That should not be possible," he whispered. Inside the mysterious vessel, old circuits slowly came to life. Ancient systems began running automatic processes. Dust that had rested for millennia floated gently through dark corridors. Doors unlocked. Computers restarted. The ship was waking up. On the silver horizon, warning lights suddenly flashed. "Captain," Sarah said. "A signal is forming." "From the ship." "Yes." Ralden hesitated for only a moment. Then he gave the order. "Open a communication channel." The crew waited. For a few seconds nothing happened. Then a weak transmission reached their receivers. The audio was broken and distorted, like a voice struggling through deep time. The bridge speakers crackled. Static filled the air. Then slowly, a voice appeared. Artificial. Ancient. Human. Exploration vessel." The crew stared at each other. No one moved. The voice continued. "System online. Navigation damaged. Mission incomplete." Captain Ralden felt his heart beating faster. The voice paused for several seconds. Then it spoke again. "Returning to the galaxy." Dr. Kellen whispered softly. "This ship thinks it just arrived." But that made no sense. IT had been drifting for 20,000 years. The voice continued its message. "Emergency protocol activated. Beacon signal, preparing for transmission." Sarah's eyes widened. "Captain, the signal is increasing in power." "How strong?" "Strong enough to reach thousands of star systems." Ralden suddenly realized something. This ship had not simply survived. It had been waiting for something, waiting for someone. Before he could say anything else, the ancient vessel released its signal. Powerful pulse of energy shot into space. It traveled across the stars at incredible speed. Across silent systems. Across empty regions of the galaxy. And far beyond. Back on the bridge, the crew stared at their screens in shock. "What did we just activate?" one officer asked quietly. But no one had an answer. Because far away in deep space, something had just received the signal. And after 20,000 years of silence, the galaxy was about to hear humanity again. The bridge of the silver horizon was completely silent. Every crew member stared at the screens. The signal from the ancient vessel was still spreading through space. It moved like a ripple across the stars, traveling farther and farther away. Captain Ralden slowly sat down in his command chair. "What exactly did we just witness?" he asked quietly. No one answered immediately. Lieutenant Sarah was still studying the sensor data. Numbers and signals moved across her screen. "The transmission is still active," she finally said. "Can you stop it?" Ralden asked. Sarah shook her head. "No. The signal is not coming from one system. It is coming from multiple systems inside the vessel. If we shut down one, another will continue. Dr. Kellen stepped forward again. This was designed to happen, he said. Ralden looked at him. You mean this ship was meant to send that signal? Yes, the scientist replied. It appears to be an automatic beacon. The captain frowned. But why would humans build something like that? Kellen thought for a moment. There is only one logical reason. Ralden waited. The scientist finished his thought. It was meant to wake something up. Those words made the entire bridge uneasy. Outside the viewing window, the ancient human vessel continued to drift slowly through space. Its lights were now fully active. For the first time in 20,000 years, the ship was alive again. 2 hours later, a small team prepared to enter the vessel. Captain Ralden wanted answers. If this ship truly belonged to humanity, then it could be one of the most important discoveries in galactic history. A small shuttle carefully approached the drifting craft. The human vessel was not large. Compared to modern ships, it looked simple and fragile, but it had survived longer than most civilizations. The shuttle slowly attached itself to an old docking port. Metal touched metal with a quiet sound. Inside the shuttle, Dr. Kellen adjusted his helmet. Atmosphere readings, he asked. The pilot checked the scanners. Thin oxygen-nitrogen mix. Very weak pressure. But stable. Kellen nodded. That matches human biology. Captain Ralden looked at the sealed airlock door. All right, he said. Let's see what 20,000 years looks like. The door slowly opened. Dust floated inside the corridor beyond. The lights flickered weakly along the walls. The interior of the ship was simple and narrow. The metal surfaces were old but strangely clean. Almost like the ship had protected itself during its long journey. The exploration team stepped inside. Their footsteps echoed softly through the empty hallway. This design is very primitive, one of the engineers said. Ralden nodded. It must have been built when humans first started exploring space. They moved deeper into the ship. Every room they passed told a story of another time. Small sleeping quarters, basic control panels, old navigation systems. Everything looked ancient compared to modern technology. Yet the systems were still working. Somehow the ship had preserved itself perfectly. Dr. Kellen stopped near a wall panel. This computer system is active, he said. He connected a small scanner to the interface. The ancient screen flickered. For a moment, strange symbols appeared. Old human language. The translation system began working immediately. Lines of text slowly appeared. Mission log. Human exploration vessel Aurora. Captain Ralden stepped closer. Aurora, he repeated. That must be the ship's name. Dr. Kellen continued reading. This is a long-range exploration vessel. Built during early human expansion. Any date? Ralden asked. Kellen's eyes widened slightly. Yes. He looked up at the captain. This log is 20,300 years old. The crew exchanged nervous looks. Open the last log entry, Ralden ordered. Kellen activated the command. The screen flickered again. Then a video file slowly appeared. The file was damaged, but still readable. Playing recording, the computer said. The screen lit up. A human face appeared. The crew froze. Most species in the galaxy had never seen a real human before. But the ancient records had described them. Two eyes, flat face, soft skin. The man on the screen looked tired but calm. He wore a simple exploration uniform. Behind him, the old control room of the ship could be seen. The human spoke slowly. My name is Captain Elias Ward. The translation system converted his language instantly. This message is for whoever finds this vessel. The alien crew listened carefully. Captain Ward continued. If you are hearing this, it means our mission has ended. He paused for a moment. Outside the recording window, stars slowly moved. We discovered something far beyond the outer edge of the galaxy. The alien crew exchanged glances. Ward continued. Something ancient. Something powerful. His voice became quieter. It was not meant to be found. Dr. Kellen whispered softly. What did they discover? On the screen, Captain Ward looked directly into the camera. We sent warnings to Earth, he said. But it was already too late. The crew of the Silver Horizon felt tension growing in the room. Ward continued speaking. The object we discovered is not natural. It is older than every known civilization. And it is waking up. Captain Ralden felt a cold feeling in his chest. The human captain leaned closer to the camera. If you are hearing this message, humanity is already gone from the galaxy. The alien crew froze. Ward continued. But we did not disappear. We left. The words echoed through the small room. The human captain looked exhausted. We realized something the galaxy did not know. We were not ready. His voice became firm. So humanity made a decision. The screen flickered slightly. We would leave the galaxy. The alien crew stared in disbelief. Ward continued. We would travel beyond its borders. We would learn. We would prepare. Dr. Kellen whispered. Prepare for what? Almost as if answering him, Ward spoke again. For the war that is coming. The recording paused for a moment. The ship's computer processed the damaged data. Then the message continued. Our exploration vessel will return after 20,000 years. It will send a signal. That signal will tell humanity one thing. Ward took a slow breath. It is time to come home. The recording suddenly ended. The room became completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Captain Ralden slowly turned toward the others. Did that human just say what I think he said? Dr. Kellen nodded slowly. Yes. Ralden looked back at the ancient screen. That beacon we saw earlier. Kellen finished the thought. It was calling humanity back. The entire team stood quietly inside the ancient ship. For 20,000 years, the galaxy believed humans were extinct. But now the truth was becoming clear. Humanity had not vanished. They had left on purpose. And somewhere beyond the edge of the galaxy, they were still out there, waiting, preparing. And now, they had just received the signal to return. The room inside the ancient ship was silent. The recording of Captain Elias Ward had ended, but his words still echoed in the minds of the alien crew. Humanity did not disappear. Humanity left. Captain Ralden slowly stepped away from the screen. His mind was racing. For 20,000 years, the galaxy believed humans had vanished. Entire civilizations had built their history on that idea. But the message they had just heard told a completely different story. Humans had not been destroyed. They had made a choice. They had left the galaxy on purpose. Ralden turned toward Dr. Kellen. How many people know about this discovery? He asked. Kellen checked his data pad. Only our ship and the nearest research station. Good, Ralden said quietly. He looked around the dusty control room of the ancient vessel. We need to understand everything this ship knows before anyone else arrives. Outside the ship, the beacon signal was still traveling through space. It had already passed hundreds of star systems. And it was still moving. No one knew who or what might hear it. The exploration team continued searching the ship. Every hallway felt like walking through history. The human vessel was old, but its systems were surprisingly organized. Small screens still displayed ancient data. Navigation maps, mission logs, scientific reports. Dr. Kellen carefully connected his scanner to the ship's central computer. This database is huge, he said. How huge? Ralden asked. Thousands of files. Start with the mission logs, the captain said. Kellen nodded and began opening the records. Lines of translated text appeared across the screen. Most of the logs were routine exploration reports. Descriptions of stars, unknown planets, asteroid belts. The ship had clearly been part of humanity's early exploration program. But one file stood out. It was marked with a warning symbol. Classified. Final discovery. Kellen opened it carefully. A large star map appeared on the screen. It showed the outer edge of the galaxy, a location far beyond normal travel routes. "What is that?" one of the engineers asked. Kellen zoomed in. A red marker flashed at the edge of the map. "This must be the location Captain Ward mentioned," he said. Ralden stared at the map. "That's almost outside the galaxy." Kellen opened the attached report. More text appeared. The translation system worked slowly because the file was damaged. But the message eventually became clear. The crew of the human vessel had discovered something in deep space. Something enormous. Something artificial. Ralden frowned. "What kind of structure?" Kellen continued reading. "It doesn't say exactly. But the report describes it as a construct." "A construct," Ralden repeated. "Yes." Kellen read the next line and froze. "What is it?" Ralden asked. The scientist looked up slowly. The structure was larger than a star system. The crew stared at him. "That's impossible," one officer said. "No civilization could build something that big." But the data on the screen was clear. The human ship had detected an object that surrounded an entire star. A massive artificial shell. The report continued. The humans had approached the structure carefully. First, they believed it was abandoned. But then their scanners detected something inside. Energy. Massive amounts of energy. Ralden felt uneasy. "What kind of energy?" Kellen read the next line slowly. "Power levels higher than the combined output of thousands of stars." The room became quiet again. One of the engineers whispered, "That's not a structure. That's a weapon." The next part of the report described what happened when the humans scanned the object more deeply. They discovered something terrifying. The structure was not dead. It was sleeping. The systems inside the object were slowly reactivating. Something ancient was waking up. Ralden crossed his arms. "And that's when humans decided to leave the galaxy." "Yes," Kellen said. "They believed the object would eventually activate completely. And when it did..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Everyone understood. The human captain's message suddenly made sense. We were not ready. So humanity made a decision. They had left the galaxy to prepare for the threat. Suddenly, the ship's computer made a loud sound. A warning symbol appeared on the screen. "Captain!" Sarah's voice came through the communication channel from the silver horizon. "We are detecting something unusual." Ralden touched the communicator on his suit. "What is it?" "The beacon signal from the human ship has triggered something." "Triggered what?" Sarah hesitated. "Other signals." Ralden frowned. "Explain." "There are multiple transmissions appearing across the galaxy." "How many?" he asked. "Hundreds," she said. Then she corrected herself. "No, thousands." The exploration team inside the human ship looked at each other. "What kind of signals?" Ralden asked. Sarah answered slowly. "They appear to be ancient satellites. Hidden in deep space." Dr. Kellen's eyes widened. "Human technology," he whispered. Sarah continued. "These satellites are waking up. They are repeating the same signal." Ralden suddenly understood. This wasn't just one beacon. Kellen nodded. "It's a network." 20,000 years ago, humanity had hidden thousands of devices across the galaxy. Silent machines waiting for one signal. And now that signal had been sent. The satellites were now repeating the message across space. Spreading it farther. Faster. Like a giant alarm clock for the universe. Ralden's communicator beeped again. Sarah's voice sounded nervous this time. "Captain, there's more." "What now?" "We are detecting something outside the galaxy." The captain's heart began to beat faster. "Explain." "Long-range sensors are picking up movement in deep space." "How far away?" Ralden asked. "Very far," Sarah replied. "But the objects are large." "How large?" Sarah took a moment to answer. Some of them are the size of moons. The crew inside the human ship froze. Ralden spoke slowly. Ships? Yes. How many? Sarah's voice became quiet. Our sensors cannot count them all yet. But the number is extremely high. Ralden felt a chill run down his spine. 20,000 years ago, humanity had left the galaxy. Now their beacon had been activated. And something enormous was moving in the darkness beyond the stars. The captain spoke carefully. Direction of travel. There was a long pause. Then Sarah answered. They are heading toward the Milky Way. Dr. Kellen looked at the ancient human screen. The words from Captain Ward returned to his mind. It is time to come home. Ralden slowly looked through the observation window of the ship. The stars outside looked peaceful and calm. But somewhere beyond them, something massive was approaching. After 20,000 years of silence, humanity had heard the signal, and they were coming back. The bridge of the silver horizon had never been this tense before. Every screen in the room was filled with new data. Signals were appearing across the galaxy faster than anyone could track them. Lieutenant Sarah stared at her sensor console in disbelief. Captain, the network is still activating, she said. Captain Ralden stood behind her chair, watching the numbers rise. How many satellites have we confirmed? He asked. Sarah checked the latest update. At least 9,000 so far. Dr. Kellen looked up from his datapad. That means the humans built an enormous communication system. Ralden nodded slowly. And they hid it across the entire galaxy. 20,000 years ago, humanity had planted silent machines among the stars. Small satellites, deep space relays, hidden probes. All of them waiting patiently. Waiting for a single signal. And now the signal had finally arrived. The ancient vessel Aurora had done its job. Across thousands of star systems, the satellites began transmitting the same message again and again. A message sent into the darkness beyond the galaxy. The signal carried only a few simple words. But those words were powerful. Humanity, it is time. Inside the ancient ship, Captain Ralden and the exploration team continued searching the old computer files. They needed to understand exactly what humanity had been preparing for. Dr. Kellen opened another classified log. This file contained scientific scans from the day the human explorers discovered the mysterious structure. A large holographic image appeared above the console. The crew stared at it in shock. It looked like a massive sphere surrounding a distant star. But the structure was not smooth. It was covered in strange geometric shapes. Gigantic plates, energy channels, endless layers of unknown technology. This is the object they discovered, Kellen said quietly. Ralden stepped closer to the hologram. How big is it? Kellen checked the measurements. The outer shell alone is larger than several planetary orbits. One of the engineers shook his head slowly. No civilization could build something like that. But the evidence was right in front of them. The humans had seen it, studied it, and then they had left the galaxy. Ralden pointed toward a blinking section of the hologram. What is that? Kellen zoomed in. A deep opening appeared in the massive structure. The human scanners had detected something inside the sphere. Central core. And that core was slowly generating energy. But the strange part was the pattern. The energy levels were rising very slowly. Almost like a machine preparing to wake up. Kellen opened another file. This one contained the final scientific conclusion from the human crew. He read the translated text aloud. The structure appears to be a dormant artificial system. Estimated age: several million years. The crew looked at each other. Several million years. That meant the object existed long before any known civilization. Kellen continued reading. Purpose unknown. However, energy output suggests potential weapon capability on a galactic scale. The room fell silent. A weapon that powerful could destroy entire civilizations. Maybe even entire galaxies. Ralden slowly crossed his arms. So humanity discovered this, and decided the galaxy was not ready. Yes, Kellen said. They believed no one could stop it if it fully activated. And that's why they left, Ralden said quietly. To become stronger. Suddenly, the communicator on Ralden's suit activated again. It was Lieutenant Sarah. Her voice sounded urgent. Captain, you need to return to the Silver Horizon immediately. What happened? He asked. Our deep space sensors just updated. Ralden felt tension building again. What did they find? There was a short pause. Then Sarah spoke slowly. They found the human fleet. Minutes later, the exploration team returned to their shuttle and flew back to the patrol ship. As soon as Ralden entered the bridge, he walked directly to the main display. Show me. The screen changed. A massive star map appeared. It showed the edge of the Milky Way galaxy. Far beyond the outer stars, tiny markers were moving through the darkness. Thousands of them. Dr. Kellen stared at the display. Are those ships? Sarah nodded. Yes. How many? Ralden asked. We cannot count them all yet. The markers kept appearing as new signals were detected. Hundreds, then thousands, then tens of thousands. And the sensors still could not see the entire fleet. But the most shocking part was the size of the ships. Sarah zoomed in on one of the objects. The image appeared blurry, but its shape was clear. It was enormous. The ship looked like a floating city. Layers of armor surrounded its massive structure. Energy shields glowed faintly around its surface. That thing is bigger than our largest battleships, one officer whispered. Kellen shook his head. No. It's bigger than entire space stations. The alien crew watched the silent fleet moving through deep space. Humanity had not simply survived outside the galaxy. They had grown. They had built ships beyond anything the Milky Way had ever seen. And they had built thousands of them. Ralden spoke quietly. Estimated arrival time. Sarah checked the calculations. At their current speed, the first ships will reach the galaxy within 2 months. 2 months. That was all the time the galaxy had before humanity returned. Across the Milky Way, governments were beginning to notice the strange signals. Research stations detected the ancient satellites. Military fleets reported unknown transmissions. Old human technology was suddenly waking up everywhere. No one understood why. Not yet. But panic was slowly spreading. Because the message being repeated across the stars was simple. Humanity is returning. Back on the Silver Horizon, Captain Ralden stood silently as he watched the approaching fleet. For 20,000 years humans had been gone. Most civilizations believed they were weak, primitive, extinct. But the fleet moving through deep space told a different story. Humanity had been preparing, and now they were finally coming home. Dr. Kellen looked at the star map again. There is something else, he said. Ralden turned toward him. What? Kellen zoomed in on another signal. It was far behind the human fleet. First it looked small, but the sensors slowly adjusted. And then the shape became clear. The object was massive. Much larger than the human ships. Its energy output was also rising. Slowly. Like something waking up after a long sleep. Ralden felt a cold chill. The structure, he whispered. Kellen nodded. Yes. The same one humans discovered 20,000 years ago. The ancient machine was activating. And now 2 powerful forces were moving toward the Milky Way. The human fleet. And the unknown object they had once feared. The galaxy suddenly realized something terrifying. The return of humanity was not the beginning of peace. It was the beginning of a war. A war that had been waiting for 20,000 years. The news spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. At first, only a few research stations noticed the strange signals. Then military outposts began detecting unknown transmissions. Ancient satellites were waking up in forgotten corners of space. They were all repeating the same message. Over and over again. Humanity. It is time. No one knew what it meant. But everyone felt the same quiet fear. Something big was happening. and the galaxy was not ready for it. On the bridge of the silver horizon, Captain Ralden stood silently as he studied the star map. Thousands of signals were now visible beyond the edge of the Milky Way. The approaching fleet continued to grow as long-range sensors improved their scans. More ships were appearing every hour. Lieutenant Sarah adjusted the sensor display again. "Captain, the count has increased," she said. "How many now?" Ralden asked. "At least 40,000 confirmed vessels." Several crew members gasped quietly. 40,000. And those were only the ships they could see. There were likely many more hidden in the darkness of deep space. Dr. Kellen looked at the enormous markers moving toward the galaxy. "The humans didn't just survive," he said softly. "They built an entire civilization out there." Ralden nodded slowly. "And now they're bringing it back." Across the Milky Way, governments were beginning to panic. The Valari Union called an emergency council meeting. Dozens of alien leaders appeared as holograms inside a massive chamber. Each leader represented a powerful civilization. Some ruled entire sectors of space. Others commanded massive military fleets. But none of them had expected this news. A Valari representative spoke first. "Our long-range sensors confirm the reports. A large fleet is approaching the galaxy from outside." One of the other leaders leaned forward. "Identify the species." The Valari officer hesitated. Then he answered. "The fleet belongs to humanity." The chamber exploded with voices. "That is impossible. Humans are extinct. Those records are thousands of years old." But the sensor data was clear. Human ships were approaching the Milky Way. And they were enormous. A military commander from another empire spoke next. "How powerful are these vessels?" The Valari officer activated a holographic image. The picture showed one of the massive ships detected by the silver horizon. The chamber became silent. The human vessel looked like a floating fortress. Gigantic armor plates surrounded its structure. Hundreds of weapon systems were visible along its surface. And the energy readings were unbelievable. The officer explained calmly. "Our scientists believe each ship carries enough firepower to destroy a planetary defense fleet." The leaders looked at each other nervously. Then one of them asked the most important question. "Why are they coming back?" No one had an answer. Back aboard the Silver Horizon, Captain Ralden was still studying the sensor data. But his attention was not only on the human fleet. Another signal continued to grow stronger. The ancient structure the humans had discovered 20,000 years ago. It was now fully awake. The energy levels were rising faster every day. Dr. Kellen walked toward the main display. "The machine is moving," he said. Ralden looked at him sharply. "Moving where?" Kellen zoomed in on the trajectory. The direction was clear. Toward the Milky Way. Ralden felt a heavy feeling in his chest. "So the humans were right," he said quietly. "The threat is real." 2 months later, the first human ships finally reached the edge of the galaxy. The event was watched by millions of observers across countless star systems. Military fleets moved into defensive positions. Research stations prepared their sensors. Every civilization wanted to see what humanity had become. Then the first ship appeared. It emerged slowly from the darkness between galaxies. The enormous vessel drifted into the outer region of the Milky Way. Compared to it, most alien ships looked tiny. The human vessel was shaped like a massive spear. Long armored sections protected its core. Bright engines glowed softly along its surface. Energy shields surrounded the ship like a second skin. The entire galaxy watched in silence. More ships appeared behind it. Hundreds, then thousands. The human fleet entered the galaxy like a moving wall of steel. Captain Ralden stared at the sensor readings in disbelief. "Their technology, it's incredible," Sarah whispered. "They are centuries ahead of us." Dr. Kellen nodded. They had 20,000 years to improve. But something surprising happened next. The human fleet did not attack. Instead, the largest ship moved forward alone. Its communication systems activated. Moments later, every communication network in the galaxy received the same message. A calm human voice filled the speakers of ships, stations, and planetary cities. "This is Commander Adrian Hale of the Terran Defense Fleet." The voice was steady and confident. "We know the galaxy has many questions." Across the stars, billions of beings listened. The human commander continued speaking. 20,000 years ago, humanity discovered a threat beyond the edge of this galaxy. You now see the same threat approaching. Images appeared on every screen. They showed the massive ancient structure moving slowly toward the Milky Way. Gasps of fear echoed across countless worlds. The human commander spoke again. "We left the galaxy to prepare for this moment. For 20,000 years we studied, built, and trained." The camera shifted to show the enormous human fleet. Thousands of ships filled the darkness behind him. "We did not return to conquer the galaxy." A short pause followed. Then the commander finished his message. "We returned to protect it." The transmission ended. Across the Milky Way, silence followed. Civilizations that once believed humans were weak now realized the truth. Humanity had spent 20,000 years preparing for a war no one else even knew existed. And now that war was finally coming. Far beyond the human fleet, the ancient structure continued moving toward the galaxy. Its energy core burned brighter with every passing hour. The machine was awake. And soon it would arrive. Captain Ralden looked at the star map one more time. Two powerful forces now stood between the stars. The ancient machine from the dark past. And the returning fleet of humanity. After 20,000 years of silence, the galaxy was about to witness the greatest battle in its history. And this time, humanity was ready. Rocket,